Okay, it's the 8th of March 2026. War has broken out with US and Iran, so there's a lot going on in the markets. We'll go through some of that today. Before we get into that, let's just have a quick look at the one and only trade that I took last week. It was on GBPUSD. I mentioned in last week's video, I was keeping an eye on Great British Pound being weak. So I managed to capitalize on that quite early in the week on the 15-minute chart. It was literally Monday morning, 6 a.m. I saw the pound was starting to sell off and the Dixie was gaining strength. So I just went short on GBPUSD and got a fantastic 2-hour trade. Nice textbook, clean trade. 2 hours at 0.75%. So 1.5% gain for the week. And that was me done on Monday morning. So yeah, good start to the week. One trade, job done. Let's look at what else happened this week, because there was obviously a lot going on. It's the first week of the war breaking out. The markets showed their initial reactions. So let's just have a scan through those. The major US indices, I mean, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 more or less sideways. The biggest loser though, out of the US indices was the US 2000, I guess because this one has such a large concentration of small caps, which are less resilient to energy prices going through the roof this week, which we'll get into in a minute. So yeah, US 2000 took quite a big hit this week. Potentially looking for shorts on this week if we get a pullback into a moving average and continuations. The big one obviously is crude oil prices. Crude oil was the big talking point of this week. The Strait of Hormuz is an extremely important corridor of water. I think 20% of the world's crude oil and 20% of natural gas flow through this bit of water. With war breaking out all around it, this is what happened. Oil prices went crazy, as you can see on this chart. I haven't had an opportunity to capitalize on any of this. If we get any pullbacks, then I'll be looking for continuations. But at the minute, that is very much extended. Gasoline being downstream from crude oil also went parabolic this week. So we'll be keeping an eye on this one as well. If we get any pullbacks, then I'll be looking for potential continuations. But at the moment, this price is far too extended for me to partake. The other big mover this week was the US dollar. Probably a couple of reasons why the US dollar gained in value this week. The first being it's a safe haven asset. Money flows into the US dollar when things are going wrong around the world. The other reason is because of oil prices going up, there is a risk of inflation rising. Therefore, it will be unlikely the Fed will be hiking rates. So that's another reason for the dollar to be climbing this last week, and it potentially will continue. But we'll get into potential Forex trades a little bit later in the video. Just a quick mention on gold as well. I expected gold to shoot to the upside, but it didn't really. It had that initial push on Monday when markets opened, and then it more or less went sideways and finished the week down. And that's because gold generally won't rise in value if the dollar's rising in value. So the dollar really capped the upside of gold this week. Another asset that was significantly affected by what's happening in the world was aluminium. This asset was already kind of on a bullish move and then has just gone parabolic this week. I believe it's because aluminium is quite an energy intensive metal to produce, and therefore because oil prices have gone crazy, it's caused this to also rise in value. We'll also be watching this one to see if we get any pullbacks and continuations. We can try and partake in this if that happens. Soybeans is another worthy mention. This one actually flagged up on my market report, which we'll look at in a minute, as a potential trading asset for next week. At the moment, it's moved significantly and we need it to do some kind of pullback and continuation. This has been fueled by the fact that one of the byproducts of soybean is obviously soy oil, which is used extensively as a biofuel, which is then linked to the price of crude oil. And because crude oil prices have gone crazy, soybean price has gone up as well. There's a kind of link there, correlation between those two markets. We'll be keeping an eye on this for pullbacks and continuations. Every week I run my market report, which takes my technical analysis and overlays it with data from the commitment of traders report, and I end up with a filtered list of assets that are potentially tradable. The only two that really flagged this week as potentials were soybeans and corn. Everything else is a bit of a mixed bag. Soybean, we've already talked about. We're looking for pullbacks and continuations. Quick look at corn. Corn is steadily rising. It looks like it's in a nice bullish trend on the daily chart. It has just created this higher high on Friday, so we'll be looking for pullbacks and continuations. Lastly, I like to look at Forex, and I've already talked about the Dixie having moved quite bullish this week because of what's going on in the world. It's also worth mentioning that the euro, the yen, the pound and the Swiss are quite bearish on the commitment of traders report at the minute. So if we go back to the charts, we've already looked at the Dixie, that's moving to the upside. The euro has made a big push to the downside. So has the yen, and I believe so has the pound. The Swiss is kind of sideways, so my least favorite of all of those. So what will that translate to? Well, I'll probably be looking for shorts on the euro USD, shorts on the pound USD, and longs on the USDJPY. At the moment, each pair is quite extended, so we'll just be looking for pullbacks and continuations. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week's analysis. It's a bit of a mixed bag because of what's going on in the world at the minute. There are some assets that I've identified that may have potential trades next week, or wait for the markets to pick a direction, start trending nicely, and then start picking off trades when things meet my risk criteria. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.